Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. Guys, are you sick and tired of dropping 60 to 100 bucks for the latest and greatest wrestling video game? Stop immediately and go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shout-outs like John in Texas. John, always love giving you the shout-out. Then check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today, and we also have loyalty rewards. Any $15 a month contributor, you can co-host an episode of a live show with me, and for our $7.50 a month contributors, you get entered into a drawing to also co-host a live show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this show. Tonight, we've got tons of stuff to get to. It is the Pro Wrestling Podcast, and we will be taking questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to touch on in a future episode through the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, a talk-to-text line, 267-642-1160. Give us anything you'd like for us to bring up in a future episode. We will try to get to that and make you a part of the show. Don't forget, if you have never been there before, check out our homepage at ProWrestling.com. We'd love for you to see everything we have to offer there, as well as some of our sponsor links. In the news, Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out of WrestleMania 38. I know going into the show, the big conversation was he didn't want to commit to anything beyond WrestleMania 38. At first, the conversation was maybe he would just do a stunner moment. Then it was a match. Then it was not going to be a match. It was just going to be an interview segment where he would get physical. And then you found out that in August, September timeframe, he had brought a ring and set up a ring at his home and was hardcore training. And that said everything you needed to know, that Stone Cold was not only just going to get physical, but it was going to be an extended physical interaction. And what an incredible interaction it was. He and Kevin Owens putting on a 20-minute clinic. Stone Cold being gone for all those years, 19 years away from the business. I want you to think about that for a minute. This week, WWE is celebrating Randy Orton being in the business for 20 years. Stone Cold has essentially been away for Randy Orton's entire career. Think about that. And he comes back. I remember when Shawn Michaels was gone for 5 years, and Triple H in one of the Shawn Michaels documentaries talking about he couldn't imagine somebody going away for 5 years and coming back and being every bit as good, if not better than they were when they left. Steve Austin, very close to the same level of competitor as when he left. He looked fantastic for that entire 20 minutes. And now the word is he is 100% after WrestleMania, and now he's open to a WrestleMania 39 opportunity. He wants to be involved in the show, and he's not saying he has to necessarily be a match, but he's definitely open to it. He was doing a conversation on the Brewbound podcast, and he was thinking about his return and whatnot, and that was his perspective. As a matter of fact, his quote was, he says, "I'm 100%. I picked up a little bit of a cold the other day, but I'm back at home in Nevada. Saturday was 100%, and then, of course, I went back into action on Sunday, did a little bit of extra physicality as part of the show. It was just as exciting time for me to go back to a business that I really, really love, and I never thought I'd be back in the ring." When they talked about him going next year, conversation shifted, and he said, "I'm not booking myself on the show because I didn't book myself on 38. That's a Vince thing, and I have a great relationship with him. If I get the call, I'll be there." And that's got to be huge for fans who are diehards, devoted fans of Stone Cold Steve Austin, because it tells you that not only did he come out of 38 doing well, because for those who don't know, when he did the little segment with Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley against the League of Nations a few years back, he actually tore a muscle in his arm while doing that little segment where he beat everybody up and hits his stunner on Xavier Woods and whatnot, and then they were all dancing in the ring and all that goofiness. He actually tore his shoulder during that interaction. I believe it was a rotator cuff or something of that nature. So that was my only concern with him going into this match, and it sounds like everything's a go. He's doing well physically. He's set, and I think for him, he's always talked at length about how when he was forced to retire, it was so hard. It took years for him to get over his addiction to being in the business, and I feel like his WrestleMania 38 experience went so well that he feels the itch now. Maybe it wasn't such a good thing for him on a personal level, but as a fan, I'm totally freaking out at the opportunity to see Stone Cold wrestle yet again. I don't know if it'll be a match, but at least at this point, if you asked me 2 years ago, I'd have said he's not wrestling ever again. If he was coming back, I would never have thought it would have been against somebody like Kevin Owens. I thought it would have been not that Kevin Owens is a main attraction, he is, but I would have thought it would have been like a generational opponent. And that Kevin Owens, a fantastic opponent, he did a great job. I just would have thought it would have been a Roman Reigns or a Brock Lesnar or something like that. Think about how he could have righted the wrong of never facing Lesnar way back in the day. I'd have been cool with that. But this ended up being perfect. Kudos to Kevin Owens for just selling perfectly. He's such a consummate pro, and he really did bring out a great performance in Steve. Steve did the same thing for Kevin with just a great experience. And now, if you ask me now, I think I would put the likelihood of a match, not even just an appearance, an actual match, at higher than 50% at this point, especially coming on the heels of the comments from Stone Cold. So it'll be interesting to see where things go. I would love to see that Brock match. I'm not going to lie. I think that would be the number one attraction you could possibly put together. But we'll have to see where it goes from there. Also coming out of WrestleMania, not that it impacts the United States viewership all that much, but one of the reasons that WWE spreads out globally the way they do, and they push certain stars and advertise certain stars, is because they really are, unlike AEW. Yes, AEW has distribution in other countries, but nobody has distribution like WWE. In India, WrestleMania was viewed by 56.1 million live viewers, reported by the Sony Sports Network. India.com put out a figure talking about how viewership was up 29% from WrestleMania 37. It was noted that the next night, on the Sunday, the Saturday viewership was actually up 34%. Sunday went up by 33%. And then Raw went up big as well because of the debut of Veer Mahaan. So Veer coming to Raw was also a huge draw. So WWE is doing great things in India, really is promoting themselves there. And I think they did a fantastic job. And as much as I can't stand Veer's finishing hold, I think they need to change that as soon as humanly possible. Everything else about his debut has been fantastic. I can't say the same thing on AEW, but this debuting star has done a fantastic job. So I hope that WWE keeps doing what they're doing. And essentially, they have now created a new international megastar, and that's awesome. And I've been seeing the memes online all week about the title change on Raw, new United States champion in theory. They got rid of Austin. Austin Theory would have worked for me. I know he got beat up by Stone Cold, so that's part of why they did it, and they think that this is a way for them to control the name and all that kind of nonsense. I really can't stand that part of it, but if you're going to put a championship on somebody and establish a new star, this was a great way to do it. I know there's people blowing up Twitter and the internet right now asking Fergal Devitt to come back, asking Finn Balor to leave WWE, go back to New Japan or go to AEW because he lost to Austin Theory. Let's be honest. Austin Theory is a budgeting star. He is a fantastic talent. And if you're Finn Balor, it's not about the wins and losses. It's about what the beauty and the magic you do in the ring. And he's helping this young man get over, which he's doing very well. And let's be honest, WWE has a habit of pushing younger stars and getting them ready for the future. Finn Balor, a little bit older star. I'm not saying that Finn Balor couldn't do more elsewhere. Of course he could, because other places would let him do more. But in the confines of WWE, Finn Balor in the last 6 months has actually gotten a pretty good position, including that United States Championship reign that may have been very short and abbreviated, but certainly was better than doing nothing. And the promotion of Austin Theory, or Theory, to a championship level competitor, I think, is smart business on WWE's part. There's people who've been complaining for years, and this is what the meme is about people complaining about WWE not promoting new stars. In addition, over on SmackDown, Madcap Moss winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal and then having this feud he's going into with Baron Corbin. Drew McIntyre feuding with Corbin, I don't like, because McIntyre's a main eventer. Madcap Moss feuding with Baron Corbin, I'm okay with that because that helps elevate another new star. And then I see the people responding to the tweet all the time, complaining, oh yeah, but these guys, they'll get buried in a month or they'll be in AEW in a year and all this nonsense. Get over it. At the end of the day, WWE can only be alive right now if they have found new stars all along the way, all along the process. Let's be honest. The Shield were not WWE established stars. Yes, they were established on the indies, but they weren't WWE guys. They made them main event guys. The Wyatt family. They made the Wyatt family. Yes, do they drop the ball with certain people? Of course they do. They dropped the ball with Sanity, who could have been a huge attraction. They dropped it with Top Dollar, and there's several others they've dropped the ball with. But they have done right by many other individuals. Look at the top of the card. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. Heck, even people like Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is a product of WWE originally. Yes, he went out and furthered his brand and broadened his experience and his perspective and did the whole creation of AEW thing. But in the end, Cody got his start in WWE. They have their fingerprints all over greatness. Now, I'm not saying they're the only people who can do that. Obviously, Kenny Omega is not a WWE product, though he was in their developmental at one point in DSW. The Young Bucks have not been a WWE product, but there are people who aren't big on their style anyways. And then you hear people talk about FTR. Heck, this week, Jim Ross talking about how FTR may be the best tag team in the world. And I'm not here to disagree with you. I would put it the debate between them and the Briscoes and them and the Usos, and I would love the three-way dance with those three teams. But the reality is, they got their start in WWE and a significant push there. People seem to think FTR was buried in WWE. They weren't. They won the Raw Tag Team Championship twice, the SmackDown Tag Team Championship once, the NXT Tag Team Championship twice. They were the first ever Triple Crown winners in WWE for tag teams. They were the Tag Team of the Year in 2016. Those guys got a push. It just wasn't the right push for them creatively. They really believed in the spirit of old school traditional tag team wrestling and thought that it should be a prominent feature on the shows. That was a big point of contention for them. It's not that they didn't get a push. They absolutely did. Working with Randy Orton, all these other things they did very well. And I think that people need to start realizing what WWE does, they do create new stars. 5-6 years ago, we didn't have women's wrestlers the way we do now. Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Naomi, we didn't have that. They created that. Just because they don't create everybody that we as fans think could be megastars into megastars doesn't mean they haven't done very well with several people. There's a reason people were upset when Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman are cut from their position. Because they created both of them. They got over with us and we wanted to see more of them and they took them away from us. That's why. Did they drop the ball with EC3? Absolutely. Good for him. He's doing CYN and doing very well for himself. Did they drop the ball with some other talents? You're never going to, bat 1,000 in all of your talent evaluations. Brian Cage is in the news this week. Brian Cage is in there because he was saying that WWE told him he was average at best the last time they wanted to bring him in for an opportunity to compete for the company. And, obviously Brian Cage, he's huge. He's got the figure WWE would love. He's incredibly athletic, maybe too athletic for his size, because I think sometimes people think it's awkward to see a guy of his size being able to do flips and jumps and spins and over the top rope dives and things like that. But that's a testament to how incredibly physical and how talented he is. WWE didn't see it at one point in time. Now, if people complain about this article it was put out, and I personally myself, I saw it on Wrestling Inc., but the reality of the situation is go back and watch old matches of Florida Championship Wrestling when Brian Cage was first there. He was not the jacked up, physical specimen that he is now. He was very skinny. He was nowhere near what he is now. So, of course, he didn't get the same reputation that he would if he went there now. But nowadays, AEW is doing nothing with him. He's only doing things on the indies right now. We're still waiting for him to make his return. They exercised his option, but still haven't done anything with him. And he cited in his conversation he was doing Insight with Chris Van Ville, or I never know how to pronounce his name. He was doing an interview with him, and he really bragged about his time in Lucha Underground and Impact Wrestling as being some of the most exciting stuff he's ever done in his career. And now he used to think he had to go with WWE, and now since they told him he was average at best, he doesn't really feel the need to have to go there. He just wants to go do something he loves doing, which is wrestling. And I appreciate that. I actually wonder what he would do if he went back now because of what he looks like now and how much more experience he has. I think he could be a huge draw for them. And certainly if Veer could be an attraction, he could as well. We'll have to see. Speaking of others that I mentioned, Alexa Bliss, also in the news. Apparently she's very frustrated with WWE's creative. They have nothing for her, and that's their fault. She has done everything they've asked her to do since coming into the company. She's been a good guy, a bad guy. She's been, the goddess. She's been all these things. She's been, the Fiend's sidekick. She did the whole thing with the doll, and she's done everything they've asked her to do. And now you had essentially a full year to plan something for her, and you have nothing. How do you forget someone who is so decorated a superstar as Alexa Bliss and have nothing for her? And they totally messed it up by putting her in Elimination Chamber. Her appearance there should never have happened. They should have held her off until they had something long-term planned for her. Instead, she's frustrated, and she has a right to be. And she's not the only one. WWE has dropped the ball with many people in terms of this stuff. I'm hoping they find a way. Congratulations to her. She just got married. That's a beautiful thing. But I hope WWE comes up with a plan for her, because it would be a shame for her to get so disgruntled she never makes it back to TV, because she's incredibly talented. And I don't know that someone with her stature would necessarily get the same push in AEW. Take a look at Ruby Soho. She's a fantastic talent, but she was upset in WWE. She never got a push. Goes to AEW and also hasn't really gotten a push. So, I fear what Alexa Bliss would do in that environment. Can you imagine Alexa Bliss versus Nyla Rose? Like, I can't see that going well. And I never really enjoyed the matches with Alexa Bliss going against Nia Jax. So we'll have to see how those things play out. Speaking of contracts and people maybe not coming back to TV, Jack Evans, 22-year-old ring veteran, his contract with AEW is not going to be renewed. I've noticed recently Tony Khan has let several contracts expire, but at this point in time, his is not going to be renewed. He lives down in Mexico now. He's been doing some indie shows in Mexico, and it sounds like he's on his way out the door. Not a big loss for AEW, but you got to think about it. Like, people give WWE so much flack for cutting people because it takes away their source of income. Is there any difference between cutting somebody when it's advantageous for the company that's a publicly traded company versus just letting people's contracts expire and then not giving them another contract to continue earning money? Tony Khan is doing nothing different than WWE's doing, except for the fact that he's letting the contracts run out and letting them run out their low downside guarantees. To me, that's not great business either. These guys want to be in the ring. The shelf life of a wrestler at the prime time of their careers is only so long. So spending any of that time sitting on the sidelines is, in my opinion, not a great thing. So hopefully he finds something else. He seems to love working down in Mexico. CMLL or AAA or something of that nature hopefully will be in his near future. Maybe he shoots over to Puerto Rico and does some more Wrestling Council. But and I'd love to see him in New Japan doing some stuff for them. I think he could do a lot, especially New Japan Strong here in the United States. I think that would be a good option for him. I mentioned FTR earlier. The report that came out today, again, reported by Wrestling Inc. and some other sources stating that WWE has interest in bringing FTR back to the company. There is no word yet on whether or not they'd be interested in returning, but they are signed through the summer, and then there is an option to pick up their contracts, to renew their contracts for another year. So that's possible. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. The way they're being booked right now, I can't envision them leaving right this second. Mark Carrano, who did an interview in 2019, mentioned that they were offered $850,000 a piece to stay with WWE and turned it down. And he actually noted that he could have bumped it all the way up to $1 million each, and they turned it down to go to AEW. These guys are committed to tag team wrestling, and they wanted to do what they felt was necessary to further the business. Kudos to them for sticking to their guns. They've actually improved their stock too, and maybe they'll get a monster deal when they do return to WWE. Somebody not returning to WWE anytime soon, Kushida. His contract runs out last week. He's officially gone from WWE television, and the word is he's probably going to go back to New Japan Pro Wrestling. I didn't love his run with WWE, but I didn't hate it either. He is a smaller guy, cruiserweight. He got to hold the cruiserweight championship like 141 days or something like that. Nice job with the championship. Never made it to Raw or SmackDown. Would have been nice to see him like Rey Mysterio on Raw or something like that once or twice. But at the end of the day, still put on some great matches, had some good feuds. I'm okay with it. He got the experience of being in WWE. He got the run that I was always hoping Jushin Thunder Liger would get, especially when Liger came in for the match with Tyler Breeze at TakeOver the one summer. But Kushida no longer with WWE. His contract expired. And the last tidbit for tonight, Jim Ross speaking the other day, talking on the Grilling with JR, that he believes that this is the year MJF becomes AEW World Champion. He mentioned some other people like Hangman Page being a great champion, and Adam Cole would be a great person to take the championship from him. Kenny Omega, whenever he comes back, might be somebody who gets an opportunity to take the championship. Miro, Samoa Joe. The problem is all those guys can't do it, and I feel like they missed the boat with MJF. I'm not disagreeing with JR. I think obviously he's got a wealth of knowledge, far more than anything I've got. But my concern is that you had so much momentum prior to the CM Punk feud that I think at this point it's almost you've kind of lost that flame. And with this whole Wardlow feud, now it's great for Wardlow because it's really building his character up and making him look great, but it's not helping MJF at all. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next time where we'll run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They give us all the music and sound effects we use. Today's podcast sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend and family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen to pick up your copy today. If you are looking for your next career move, maybe college or university life, or you just need some advice for that next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night. Check out and support independent wrestling. There's some great action out there. Don't turn your back on it and don't sleep on it. www.wrestling.com. Check it out. Check out their YouTube channel, 3WA. They've got great matches. Check out a local wrestling promotion near you. They are all fantastic. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.